I'm Sara Meyers from ANIA, Scanlon, and Sirignano, and always appreciate Yonkers, Newark, Yonkers Library System, WJCS, for inviting us to partner with all of you to provide these educational programs. I find it ironic that we're going to talk about sleep tomorrow and ways to get better sleep, because a lot of when I talk about senior scams, it can be very stressful, and then we begin to lose sleep about scams and making sure we're not victims of scams. I'm just going to share my screen if that's okay. And there you are. Share. There we go. So we're going to talk about scams, and it's interesting. I used to always talk about scams perpetuated against seniors, but seniors shouldn't feel special because scams are perpetuated against everybody all the time. I actually did a presentation similar to this just a couple of weeks ago for the State Bar for the Elder Law section. We had a conference, and I did a presentation on scams and using guardianships to protect those who are incapacitated or allegedly incapacitated from scams. And anytime I do a presentation on scams, usually that morning I'll just Google recent scams. And every time I Google it, new scams come about because scammers are smart. We think we might be smart. We're not. Scammers are always one step ahead of us. So what's the most important thing to do? Don't pick up your phone unless you recognize the number. Don't pick it up. People leave a message if they're trying to reach you. And if you get something in the mail and it looks a little bit suspicious or odd, I appreciate the woman from the library saying someone brought a notice to the library. Ask somebody. Even here in my law office, our firm, we get very interesting letters, emails, notifications that we have to always, again, read very carefully, because more often than not, many times it's a scam and someone looking for money. And I'll give you a very simple example. For those of you who own a house or a condo, right? If you purchased something recently, or you transferred your property into a trust, you have to do a new deed transferring the property into the trust. So our clients now are receiving letters from somebody saying they can obtain a copy of their deed for them. Guess what? Their lawyer has the original deed, and if they needed it, they can go down to land records to get the deed. You don't need to pay somebody to obtain the deed for you. Also, how many of you have ever looked at the New York State Office for Unclaimed Funds? It's a great website. I'm sure the library also has a lot of information on it, where if you forgot about a bank account and yet your bank account has been dormant, or your gift card has been dormant, I think it's for more than 3 years, those funds are paid to the state and they hold them for you. And then you can go to the website and you can put your name in and see if they're holding any funds. Periodically, I'll get a letter saying from some company, "Hi, Sara Meyers, there's funds, we'll get them for you." I'm like, oh, okay, I'll go to New York State Office for Unclaimed Funds and do it myself. But my favorite letter is that I won the lottery. With the proviso, as we all know, is we have to pay the taxes, and we're not paying the taxes to the United States Treasury. We're paying the taxes to Jack Smith. So again, if you didn't buy a ticket, right, you had to be in it to win it. If you didn't buy a ticket, you didn't win the lottery. And I'm sorry to have to tell you that. I'm happy if people want to ask questions throughout the presentation. Just unmute yourselves. Feel free to just ask a question when it comes about. So we're going to talk about scams, targeting seniors especially, but really they are targeting everybody at this point. And then some of the important estate planning documents that we can do to try to protect ourselves against that abuse. Okay, scams. So I find scams fascinating because I want to understand why they happen and why we fall prey to them. So most scams break down in the same direction. There's a hook, right? You won the lottery. I want to date you. And we'll talk about dating scams a little bit as well. That you need repair work done on your house. What's the hook? What's going to draw me in? And it's usually money or love. Then the scammer It's not right away, send me money, do something, right? They want to build a rapport, right? I want to believe that they're trustworthy. I want to develop this relationship with them. And then all of a sudden, there's a deadline for me to pay them money. So let's talk about that for a second. So what's the hook, as we talked about? Money, I won the lottery, but I have to send money. Love, I'm a widow or widower or newly divorced senior or a lonely senior, and I'm on the dating app, I'm on Facebook, I'm looking for someone to build a rapport with, or I'm just afraid that, I've done something wrong, or I'm just not cautious, or I think that if I buy the magnets, right, this was a scam a while ago, you have terminal cancer, but if you put special magnets under your bed, that's going to cure you. No, unfortunately, it won't. But I want the con artist seems trustworthy at first, right? They want to build that rapport. They're very good at manipulating, right? They want us to not have a reason to doubt them. And once we have that rapport and that trust, then all of a sudden there's the ask for money. And what all scammers want, as we know, is money. So what are the common scams that we see? The sweepstakes, the grandparents, home improvement, the IRS, get rich quick, and internet safety. And we'll go into just briefly each scam. I think I'm just going to stay on this one, or we could just go to each one. So again, as we discussed earlier, the sweepstakes, congratulations, Sara Meyers. You won the sweepstakes. You won $2.8 million plus a car. And I'm assuming many of you have received this in the mail, and thank you for being aware that it's a scam and throwing it out. But in order for me to collect my winnings, I have to pay the taxes first. And the taxes, of course, don't come out of the winnings. The taxes have to come out of my funds personally. So then I have to write a check to someone. And as I said earlier, I'm not writing a check to the Treasury, to New York State income tax. I'm writing it to some agency that doesn't exist. Or frankly, I'm just writing it to Jack Smith. Here's the thing, as we said, you didn't win the lottery. You don't have to pay taxes with your personal funds prior to receiving the lottery winnings. So what are important things to do? Don't wire money to someone you don't know. Don't pay to collect prize money. If someone asks you to buy gift cards to make payment, that should alert you as well, is that something is wrong here. And again, the don't rely on caller ID, I completely agree. Don't pick up the phone unless you know the number. But if the caller ID says, New York State Lottery, how does the New York State Lottery have your phone number? When you buy a lottery ticket, do you put your phone number on it? No, right? So the New York State Lottery is not calling your phone number. So again, and if it was actually the lottery, what do? Let them go to voicemail, play the voicemail message, and learn that you won the lottery. So again, don't wire money to someone you don't know. Don't write checks to someone that's not, winning the lottery, an official agency, right? You don't use your own money to collect your winnings. And don't assume that the caller ID is caller ID, right? On my cell phone, every now and then I'll get a call from my cell phone number, which always very much confuses me. But again, be very, very wary and very skeptical. The grandparent scam, this has actually been tapering off, but I hear it's coming back, where someone calls you and says, your grandson is in jail in Mexico for purchasing drugs. Your granddaughter is out traveling and she was in a car accident. And the grandchild always wants the grandparent called. Now think about that for a second. Wouldn't that stress a grandparent out? Why aren't they calling the parent? Right? And again, you probably know whether or not your grandchild is traveling. And if you don't, call your child and say, hey, is granddaughter, grandson somewhere? Right? And then there's always the ask for money on behalf of. No. Again, double check who's calling, get the name and information from the caller. Don't wire money to anybody. Don't give anybody gift cards. And frankly, ask to speak to that grandchild before you do anything else. It's very important. Again, it's funny because again, at the introduction, There's going to be a program tomorrow on sleep and anxiety and the importance of getting sleep. So what do I tell everybody when I do these presentations? Don't keep your cell phone by your bed. Why? Because when you're after you've fallen asleep or you're dozing off and the phone rings, you're much more susceptible either to believing what the person on the other line is telling you, or in terms of giving out your information. So don't keep the cell phone by your bed, right? Have something else there in case of you need to call someone in case of an emergency, but don't pick up the phone in the middle of the night, because you're bound to either reveal information of yours that's being asked for, or being susceptible to a call from a scammer. And home improvement. This is one of my favorites because it almost happened to me about 21 years ago, where someone knocks on your door, right? They're driving by because they're doing work in the neighborhood, and they see a tree branch, something going on with the siding, with the pointing of the bricks on your chimney, and they want to take a look, and you'll pay them, right? Or give a free inspection. The answer is no, right? The answer is just no. Say thank you, and I will call my roofer, contractor, plumber, whomever it is, or write down all their information and check to make sure that they're a legitimate provider, and then frankly get a second opinion. So when my husband and I moved into our house, be about 21 years ago this fall, and I was on maternity leave, I was home with our second child, and there was a knock on the door. The prior company that serviced the chimney, they just put a new liner in the chimney and they wanted to get paid. I'm like, first, we didn't contract with you. Second, I've been home for the past 3 months on maternity leave. I would have seen your truck in my driveway. And three, like, how would I even know that the liner is there? And I said, if you proceed with this further, we will, contact the authorities. We had not heard back from them since. So again, be very careful about people, driving by to do work on your property. And I'm assuming everybody knows now the IRS does not call you. If you owe funds, you get a notice in the mail. The IRS doesn't call you. They don't tell you you're going to be arrested. The IRS will send a notice. If the caller ID shows up and it looks like the IRS and they're willing to take a credit card over the phone, think back for a second. When was the last time when you sent in your tax payment did you pay via credit card, right? You write to the US Treasury or New York State income tax on a check. They don't accept credit card. They don't call you to take credit cards. They don't call you to take gift cards. They just don't call. And sometimes the scams are interesting. If any one of you have heard any of my presentations before, for a while, there was like a 9-month period where I'd get home from work, or my husband would get home, whoever got home first. There'd always be a message on the machine from the United States Magistrate's Office. There was a warrant out for our arrest and with directions what to do. Nobody calls you to tell you that you're being arrested. They show up at the door. So be very careful about who's coming to the door or who's calling and who's sending notices. And again, don't engage, just hang up, because I will tell you, the scammers are smarter than you. And if you think you're going to outwit them, you are not going to. They will end up getting the information that they need. So be very careful. We lost one. Sweepstakes. We took care of sweepstakes, grandparent, home improvement, IRS, investment scams. Someone calling you, cold calling you. They say they're from some brokerage firm and they have an investment for you. No, they don't. Don't give people your information. Just don't. And don't think that you can get rich quick, or again, that if you give them 10,000 next week, they'll give you 20,000, right? And don't. Be very, very wary of anything unsolicited that sounds too good to be true. If it sounds too good to be true, it normally is too good to be true. Okay, so how do we maximize our internet safety? Because I'm assuming most of you at this point will online shop or pay bills online. Have strong passwords and change them regularly. I have in my desk drawer over here, I have a notepad with my passwords, and then I update, and I have to write them all down, right? Because or else we forget them. But it's very important to have have passwords, update passwords, change passwords, and frankly, don't log on to your bank account from a public space, right? Using public Wi-Fi, because again, those are all susceptible to being captured. And I'm not here to tell you how, because I don't. I'm just here to talk about scams and keeping ourselves safe. Does anyone have any questions so far? Okay, so again, don't give people your passwords. Change your passwords. Don't use your date of birth or social security number, anything that's, can be found online as a password, and use the combination of symbols, numbers, uppercase, lowercase. Also make sure at the beginning of the website, it has the HTTPS with the, to make sure it's a secure website. Be very careful about all of that information. Don't let people friend you if you're on Facebook or Instagram who you don't know. Don't give out personal information. It's unfortunate. And again, tomorrow night's going to help us learn how not to lose sleep. But these are things, unfortunately, we can lose sleep about. But the more we talk about it, the more we can protect ourselves and not fall victim. My mouse is much faster than I am today. So how do we protect ourselves from identity theft? Shred, 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 shred. And Westchester County is great. I think it's once a month, but I'm sure Yonkers North can let you guys know. They do have shred days where you can take your, all of your paper and have it shredded, or just have a small shredder right by your mailbox, and any of those credit card solicitations, throw right in the shredder. We shred everything because again, you don't know. Pay as many bills as you can online or via credit card. Because again, we know that unfortunately sometimes checks are taken out of the mail. Make sure that you direct deposit your work, your employment, your Social Security, which is directly deposited at this point. Don't keep your Social Security card in your wallet. Also, it was probably about a decade ago, Medicare stopped using the Social Security number on the Medicare cards and gave you a new ID. There's no need to ever have your Social Security number and card in your wallet. Also be aware of how many credit cards do you have? How many credit cards do you need? Do you have a lock on your credit report so nobody can take a credit card out in your name? We do that. My husband and I, we have all of our credit reports locked. So if someone tries to take out a credit card, they can't unless we unlock it. And I would say once every quarter, my husband gets a letter from either Home Depot or Lowe's that someone has tried to take that he has tried to take out a credit card. And if he wants to continue, right, he has to open up, release the credit reports. So we have that all locked up. My oldest daughter just got her own credit card. No, my middle daughter just got her own credit card. My older daughter's had one for about a year. Their credit is all locked, right? They got the card, we locked it. They won't unlock it until they need, buy a house and need to get a mortgage. So keep all of that very secure. And again, don't use public Wi-Fi, and don't give out your passwords. Don't give your personal information to somebody. Be very, very wary. And I know I sound a little paranoid, but I like people hearing it again and again to be very aware that most people I think are very good people, but unfortunately there have been some bad actors out there, and we have to protect ourselves. And I just looked over here. I just got an email. Dear customer, we are trying to process your order, but we need your contact information. We need your credit card information, right? But why? I didn't buy anything through this customer help center. And again, what I do is I mark it as junk so I don't receive it again. But we get emails all the time on everybody, did you buy this? Verify that. Be very, very aware and be very knowledgeable of what your transactions are. What we have with us, I have 3 kids. Anytime there's an online transaction made on our credit cards, my husband gets a notification, And if it sounds sort of funky, the group chat and the group chat with the family, he puts in the text, anybody buy from XYZ, I need to let me know if I should authorize it. So we have like a check and balance there with any online purchase. He gets notified that a purchase is trying to be made. So we try to, again, because there are 5 of us in our house, who knows who's charging what. We want to just be aware if when that credit card is being used to make sure it's a family member, one of us, who is using it. Any
Sarah?
questions? Yes.
Sarah, yeah, I had put one in the chat, but I'm going to ask you instead. Do you need to pay to lock your credit, and how do you lock your credit?
Okay, my apologies. My thing was blocking the chat. So if you go, there's the 3 national credit score reportings, Equifax. I will tell you all 3 of them if you give me a second, and they don't charge you. Hold on, give me 1 second. I will tell you the names of all the credit agencies where you get the credit score. It's Equifax. Give me 1 second because I'm having a senior moment. There is no fee to do that.
Experian,
Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. Thank you for that second one. Equifax, Experian, TransUnion. And if you Google it, the first thing, learn about your credit report, how to get a copy, and then how to lock your credit scores, and how to contact them, and how to take care of it. So I think it's important to lock it. You don't need, just be very aware. What's the other thing to be very careful of? When you get your bank statement in the mail every month, take a look at the canceled checks. Make sure when you wrote that check to Con Ed is the one who deposited the check, and some person's other, name wasn't, Con Ed wasn't whited out and some other person's name was inserted in. Look at your bank statements very carefully every month. Look at your credit card statements very carefully every month, because things can slip by. And I'll give you an example. It happened into one of my bank accounts, where I was reconciling the end of the month, and there was a check that I had written to a charity, where my husband and I were doing our end of year gifting. We wrote a check to a charity. That check was never cashed, but a check was like copied to make it look like that check. It's called check kiting. And then it had a person's name right in there with the account number, with that check number. And the bank, it looked like a fake check, I have to tell you. The bank cashed it, and I won't name the bank. I went into the bank reversed it. We put in a police report. Check your bank statements, check the canceled checks. We all have to be much more alert now as to scams that are out there. And I'll give you a funny story. I was doing this presentation a couple of months ago for some various Department of Social Services and Departments of Aging. And we were talking about, the people calling, hey, Sarah, whatever it is, send us the money. We'll take care of X, Y, or Z. So a gentleman received a call from whatever that scammer was selling at the time. And he said, you know what? I'm going to call my local Department of Social Services, Department of Senior Services, to see if you're a scam or not. Lo and behold, 5 minutes later, Department of Senior Services, Social Services called him and said, this is just Department of Senior Services. We're calling all the seniors in the neighborhood to let you know that these people are calling and it's completely legitimate. And then 5 minutes later, gets a call back from the scammer, gives the scammer money. So be very careful of what you say to people online, and to really verify information. Any other questions so far in terms of some of the scams out there? Because now we're just going to go into ways we can protect ourselves and our information. And I think it's very important for people of all ages to have their, over 18, to have their estate planning documents done. But what's the key document in terms of protecting assets from scammers is a durable power of attorney, a power of attorney. A power of attorney is a document that says, if you can't handle your financial affairs, you're appointing an agent to do that for you. Why is that important to have? Because that way, if you become incapacitated, you've appointed somebody to make financial decisions for you. And that person then can bring the power of attorney to the bank so they can pay bills. What I'm seeing more also now, especially with the more aggressive scammers and people thinking they're smarter. I actually had a client, or we brought a guardianship because the client's mother, for whom she was the agent under the power of attorney, the scammer went to the house and had mom sign a new power of attorney, appointing this guy, the scammer, as the agent. So it's important to have the documents sort of as proof that you've had them and who you want to handle your financial affairs. Also, with someone with diminished capacity, they don't understand they're being scammed, and it gives the original agent authority to be acting and going after the scammers, notifying the banks, contacting the banks. So very, very important to have a power of attorney to appoint someone to make those financial decisions for you if you can't, but also to assist or to take care of things if you have diminished capacity, if not even if you're being scammed, but how much more so if you're being scammed, to really start protecting yourself. And along those lines too, a healthcare proxy, you want to make sure you appoint someone to be the agent to make medical decisions for you. And giving a copy, I have all my clients provide a copy of their healthcare proxy to all their providers. Why? Because let's say one day some strange person brings mom or dad to the doctor. The doctor's like, "Who are you?" And they're like, "Oh, I'm John Smith." There's no name no John Smith in the file. The healthcare proxy is not John Smith. It alerts the doctor's medical staff that there could be an issue here too. So again, very important to make sure you have the estate planning documents, the power of attorney, the healthcare proxy, in order to protect yourself both financially and medically. Again, we know that there are always going to be issues, but the more information we have regarding scams, the more we can protect ourselves, and the more estate planning we've done, the more we can protect ourselves. Want to talk a little bit about some available resources. What happens if someone's become a victim of a scam? First thing, go to the police department and file a police report. What sometimes is the biggest impediment in terms of a police investigation? I'm somewhat incapacitated, or I believe that the scammer's not a scammer. I truly believe that I won the lottery and I need to pay John Smith money. I'm not filing a police report because I don't think I've been scammed. So a lot of times the police can't act or don't act because the victim doesn't believe that he or she is the victim. I still think it's very important to file a police report so the police are aware of a scam and someone being scammed and becoming vulnerable. Go to the bank and bring that power of attorney to the bank to let the bank know that someone's fallen victim to a scam. You're the agent under the power of attorney. They should not honor any other power of attorney, especially one to a scammer, and they should not allow withdrawals from that account. Because what did a scammer do? I did another guardianship probably about a year ago now. The scammer convinced the older woman to redirect her monthly Social Security to a new account. And trust me, her name was not on that account. And what happened was the woman no longer had enough money to pay rent. So again, be very careful. And and this can happen to anybody. Call Adult Protective Services and call the Westchester County's Elder Abuse Division. They're a great, great resource. But again, it is so important to understand and know about the scams, to really try, because the more information we have and the more we hear about scams and the more we're told, don't pick up the phone, don't give out your information. If we develop that muscle memory to start letting it sink in, so we remember not to provide that information to anybody and start protecting ourselves from the scams. I'm happy to open it up to questions now. Again, my name's Sara Meyers. I'm an attorney with Ania, Scanlon, and Sirignano. An elder law attorney, been practicing for about 28 years now. But I think educating is so important, which is why I love this partnership with Yonkers Newark and WJCS, because again, as we always say, an educated consumer is our best customer, but it's so important to be doing community outreach and educating seniors, but really everybody about scams and our vulnerability to them. So any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. I have a 72-year-old brother-in-law who is living with a woman who's substantially younger than him, and we don't trust him. We don't trust this woman at all. He's disappeared from our lives. So I'm wondering if there's elder abuse. I'm wondering if she's drugging him or something. We're in the great state of Brooklyn. So I'm wondering, like, what we can do. And as we don't get answers from him, it's also, we don't even know if he's married. Now, I went on, we have been verified, and I tried to check her. And in addition, just one other thing is I went on this Acris that
Yep.
looks up pretty okay, because he paid us off. He didn't want to sell the property. It was, my wife's and his. He got a mortgage, a reverse mortgage to pay us off, but it wasn't enough. And then I went on Acris and I see there's an additional like $1 million mortgage. So I don't know what the hell is going on with him. I don't trust her. He hardly ever talks to my wife anymore.
So, first of all, I did not know a palm tree grows in Brooklyn. I just thought a tree grows in Brooklyn. So I like that Brooklyn now has palm trees. May I call you John? Because I don't want to pronounce your last name wrong. I think, John, you raise actually a very interesting issue, and we're going to just talk more big picture about that. Is seniors someone who isolates a senior, right? And we're just going to give a broader example. Someone's, Stephen's wife passed away, and some younger woman befriends him, and lo and behold, she's moved in, he's no longer picking up the phone, or she picks up the phone and says, Stephen doesn't want to see you, or Stephen's indisposed, or we'll call you back, right? So that's when there's that trigger, that concern about isolation. Is this person isolating Stephen, right? And he might not even know someone's calling, and she could say, look, your family doesn't love you anymore. They don't care about you anymore. I'm the only one who does. And if she blocks the phone so no one can speak to him, and he's being told no one wants to speak to him, right? And you're a person who's vulnerable or has some diminished capacity, it can have detrimental effects. So many times a person will call Adult Protective Services to do a home visit or stop by unannounced to just check in. We haven't seen you, we're in the neighborhood. But again, those are very difficult situations. Or maybe this individual, Stephen, is like, you know what? I hated my wife's family. I met this lovely woman. I want to give her all my attention. Great. So there are a lot of different scenarios and a lot of different reasons. But again, stopping by unannounced, calling Adult Protective Services, checking land records to see if their deeds and transfers of property to this unknown person are all things to do as well. There's not one right answer, and there's not one right or wrong way of handling these things, because frankly, it is very delicate.
Right.
Anyone else? Yeah.
So wait, so we have the right to call adult protective services?
Anyone can call Adult Protective Services. It's all it's all anonymous. After this, let's say there was someone behind you who looked like, she was trying to get you off the call, or you seem very vulnerable and you were sharing that you actually won the lottery, right? You're sharing with us, you've won the lottery. You're just going to run out and write the check afterwards, that it's not a scam. Anyone on this call, I don't have, as an elder law attorney, I have no legal obligation to do anything, but anyone can call Adult Protective Services and say, I'm concerned about John. He reported that he won the lottery and he's writing checks to Jack Smith's, whatever it is. So anyone can call Adult Protective Services.
Okay, and what was the final thing? Was you said I can check something about his deeds or something?
Well, like as you said, you were going online to Acris for land records to see if the properties were still in his name, right? And if you see, let's say there's a deed from brother-in-law to some third party, right? That would be an alarm bell that perhaps he's being scammed, and another reason to investigate further. But I think there are always a lot of sides to those kind of situations.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? So again, I think the big takeaway is, I know it sounds terrible, but be a little less trusting than what we want to be. Don't give out any personal information. Don't pick up the phone unless you know who the caller is. Don't send money in the mail to someone you don't know. You never have to pay your bills via gift card. And again, I highly recommend you go to tomorrow's program about better ways to sleep well. And I might ask Valerie to send me the link to that as well. But again, my name's Sara Meyers. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Ania, Scanlon, and Sirignano. And I very much appreciate our working with Yonkers, Newark, and WJCS to provide education to seniors on senior scams, estate planning, Medicaid home care. I think we've done what to do when someone passes. I've been enjoying our partnership, I think, since early COVID to try to just do information sessions. So thank you again for having me.